Hello guys, this session is to talk about how to load the data from CSV file either from a local source or Google Cloud Storage location to BigQuery. Let's get started. When we start loading the data from cloud storage bucket, then we have to consider a couple of location constraints where your dataset location and the cloud storage bucket location has to be same even though it is a regional or multi-regional configuration. Only exception is if your dataset is US multi-regional location, then it can accept the data by loading the CSV file from any cloud storage bucket in any regional or multi-regional location. Let's talk about the limitation of loading the data from local data sources. So the wildcard and comma separated list options are not supported for loading the data from local source, and similarly while processing the data through BigQuery WEBUI, you can only load the data up to 10 MB and the row limits are up to 16,000. There are 4 ways of loading the data files to BigQuery. First one is BigQuery UI, second one is BigQuery command line utility, third option is BigQuery client API, which is supported by the list of languages which we all prefer, and the fourth one is Cloud Data Flow. This is a Apache Beam supported framework and it's a scalable option, and you can design very complex data pipelines for this for our purpose, and it is supported by Java or Python, and you can engage with Apache Airflow, which is Cloud Composer, to do the orchestration as well. So in this video, let's focus on the first option, BigQuery WEBUI way of loading the data with some sample CSV files in detail. Let me show you the BigQuery environment a little bit. This is my sample project. The data ingestion is the data set I created, and when we load the data, it will automatically create the table inside this data set. So data set is nothing but the high level container which will hold all the database objects like view or function, or your table will come under this. Let's quickly see the create table panel. So when you click on the create table panel by sitting on the dataset, you will see this panel where you can configure the options to load the CSV file. So let's do the BigQuery UI based approach for now, and by the time our Cloud Shell will be ready to process the command line options to load the data. So it starts with the, and let me also show you the data a little bit. So I have 2 CSV files like this. The first one is having username, first name, last name, display name, job title, department, all the way to zip code and country. And if you look at the first CSV file, the third row is actually spanning to the fourth row, and third row has a field called the street name, I guess, address column, I guess, and it is actually spanning over multi-line. One Microsoft is in one line, and there is a new line, and way is in the second line. That's why you see 2 lines for the third row. So this is to demo the multi-line data inclusion, how we can do it with a flag, if this is the case, with the quoted delimiter. And the second file has 3 rows. It's very simple. It's all straightforward. So total 3 rows from second one. First one has 2 rows, 2 real data rows. So let's go back to our UI and let's select the upload, and we can browse our file from here. So first one we'll select now, and this is CSV format. It auto detected it, and you can see the supported file format over here as well. So Avro, Parkey and ORC, JSON2, and destination will be our project and my dataset name. Table name, let's say sample CSV first one, and I can do auto detect, or I can provide whole field list here as a JSON format, or you can do it like add field and keep listing down all the columns here. So let's do the auto detect for now, and you can do partitioning while loading the data. That will help a lot, and it is an optimization feature in BigQuery, and you can do clustering as well along with partitioning. But for now we'll go with no partition and try to do the partition in one more load for the second file. So no partition, no clustering, and write if empty is the right preference, and field delimiter is comma. If you have custom delimiter, you can select from these 4 options, and you can do a custom options here too. And header rows to skip, so we can do header rows to skip as 1. Let's see what happens, and the first row would be considered as a header row and it will skip it. Quoted new lines will really help us to go through with the multi-line data. If you remember, I showed that one Microsoft way address with multi-line in there. This is the case. So once we go here, check this box to allow that row to go through, and jagged rows is nothing but like to accept the rows that are missing trailing optional columns. So you can check this out too. That's really helpful. And let's do the encryption as Google managed key and create the table. So now our table is created. It's right here, and you can see the details, and 2 rows are over here. And let's see the preview. So preview is perfectly fine, and address column has new line character over there. So this got successful. So let me show the same thing. If I don't select the flag, how does it error out? Upload. So let's do upload. Select. Same file will select. First one. Table name sample CSV1. Auto detect. And if I go to the advanced option, append to the table, you can see we already have the table existing, and this one I will not select anything, so I am hoping it will error out. So let's look at it. This is what I was expecting. So error while reading the data, error detected while parsing the row starting at position, that one. So it's the position, that means it's the exact character number from the starting of the row. So that's what exactly I meant. It will error out if you have multi-line in there and you don't select that box. So let's close this and let's process the second file. So while processing the second file, I'll just we'll try to use some other options and see how those things works. So if I go to second file, and if you see the second file, it has 3 rows, Ben, David and Cindy. So from here, let's go to sample CSV1, auto detect, and the schema is exactly same as the first file, only the data number of rows are different, and we'll keep the same option and we'll say overwrite the table. If I overwrite the table, it it should actually override those 2 rows with these 3 new rows. We'll just check that out. Let's see. It's done. So now if you see the table, it should be refreshed with the 3 rows only. When evidence in the all good. So now let's go back and try to create another table and try to select the partitioning option and see how it goes. So upload the file. So let's start with the same file and sample CSV partition retime auto detect and advanced option. This is comma, skip the first row, allow this, and partitioning will say ingestion time by day. Require partition filter if you select, then while if somebody try to use the select statement against this table, they have to the ingestion time where clause to use the partition while doing the selection. That will help the scanned bytes to limit to that particular partition based on that ingestion time, so that it will really cost much lower than the selecting the whole table. So it would be a day partition. You can select hour, month, and year partition, and clustering can be done on any table, any column. You can do multi-column as well based on your usage. So based on the frequency of using your filters, based on those frequently used filters, you can put the clustering option, so that it will really sort that data based on the clustering option, and it will help you to query in a much better way and faster way, and it will really help on reduce the cost as well. So let's write the data. Let's write this data now. So where you can see the table type is partition and day partition, and the column is, this is a pseudo column which you really didn't create, or it's not part of the CSV schema file what we used to load it. So this is automatically used, and it will hold the ingestion time for the partition usage. And the default partition expiration is 60 days, just because I have a free trial version of this sandbox environment. So those required filter will be useful when you have till petabyte scale data in one table, and you want to really make sure the user use that partition field, and not necessarily you will always use the ingestion time. More towards like reporting usage, you will try to use your own date field, like transaction date or created date, based on your business logic, so that any reporting user or data analyst will use those date field to segregate their data or select their data. So let's go to the, so this is done, and loading the data from the Google Cloud Storage by using the same UI, it is exactly same. So you just need to select Google Cloud Storage from this option and give the bucket name, and it should go on the same filter, same options, and okay, there you go. Let's look at this. This is to configure our project ID. So my project ID is going to be mostly this one. So let me set this up over there. Okay. Twice. Okay, so our inbox is ready. So let's create a bucket also from here. We'll show the UI version of loading the data from Google Cloud Storage once, and example bucket CSV Data, CSV Data source. Oh, it should be a globally unique name. That's one. Okay. Now location can be, this is what we discussed about. So we can do multi-region, no problem. So continue. Standard storage class, continue, and you got fine-grained access control. That's fine. Google managed key. Everything is okay. Let's create this. And let's upload those two files we talked about, 1 and 2. Both over here, so they are now here. So from cloud storage you can really process the file by doing a wildcard. That's what we learned. So let's try to mimic that same thing. So if I go back here, let's do the data set, create table, and Google Cloud Storage, and this bucket information will point to the newly created bucket name here. Select, okay, you can do that here. So let's do it from, okay, so that means the UI doesn't support this wildcard thing. Wildcard is only going to be available for your BigQuery command line option, or the API way of doing it. It doesn't. Let's see what it does. Sample CSV 1 GS. Okay. I'm just going to take it out. GS way, auto detect schema, and we'll keep everything same. We'll just do the allow quarter lines here and skip the header low. Create table. It does work. So let's see, if I go to the table, it should have only 2 rows. So 2 rows means it processed the first one only. So if I go back to the same process, create table, start from there. If I go for the second one, and go for the same, let me copy that table name, partition. Oh, I did a spelling mistake, please ignore that. Let me create table, and if I do the Google Cloud Storage and refer to the second one, okay, CSV, and get the table same name, auto detect, and we can do the same configuration here, allow quoted new lines, and here you can say append to table, so that the new number of rows are going to be updated there. So we should be having 5 rows as a whole. Go to the table, there you go, details, you got 5 rows right there, all set. So that's how we load the data from CSV file, either from local location or the Google Cloud Storage, by using the WEBUI from BigQuery.